My name is Kozue Akibayashi. I am International President of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which is the oldest international women's organization, peace organization, that was established in 1915, and we have been working since then to achieve a peaceful world, but all at the same time to achieve the women's human rights. We see the link between peace and the achievement of women's human rights. So that's what WILPF has been doing for over 100 years. WILPF has been devoted to achieve total disarmament, including nuclear abolition. We have one special project on nuclear abolition, which is called Reaching Critical Will, who worked very hard to realize the nuclear weapon ban treaty that was adopted on July 7, 2017. We have another project called Women, Peace and Security that was established around 2000 to promote the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, Women, Peace and Security. That was the first Security Council resolution that addressed the issue of gender and peace. Demilitarization and disarmament are essential to move into a world beyond war because both address the major elements of the social institution of war. Demilitarization is about changing people's thinking, and disarmament is about changing methods to deal with disputes. Demilitarization and disarmament have to go hand in hand, because giving up arms, that's disarmament, alone does not lead to the fundamental change that is necessary for the world beyond the war. We need to achieve demilitarization, that is to change our belief system that about the usage of the force. That the coercive force is necessary for security and safety of our life. And organized institution like the military has been legitimized and justified by that belief, and we have to change that. So demilitarization is not only about dismantling the military, but dismantling our thinking about the force. And WILPF has been unique in that effort to offer perspective that is gender, but that is to problematize patriarchy. Again, legitimization of force by characterizing that force as masculine power, and masculine is more important and more adequate to provide safety and security for the people, and for those, in fact, that actually excludes many people in expressing their views or contributing to the social process or political processes, because those who are not masculine enough are not good enough or smart enough or knowledgeable enough to participate in a political process or decision making. And that is what that we argue has actually caused many wars that we have experienced over 100 years. There are many benefits to disarmament. There are also challenges as well. The benefits are, we argue that disarmament would make our life better, make our life more secure, safer. Currently, not only currently, but for decades, we have invested too much resources, natural, financial, and others, to developing, testing, and using weapons. Testing, in fact, only causes tremendous damage in an environment. well, using the weapon, of course, would in many cases cause irreversible damage to our environment and ecology. Our financial resources have been used too much on developing arms and using arms and keeping them. We argue that there are better ways to use those resources, natural, again, and financial, so that our lives can be made more secure. Why don't we spend more money on education, building school, making sure that all children can go to school and finish school? Why don't we spend all these monies on maternity health, building more hospitals that are accessible to mothers or for people at large? There are many other ways to use our resources so that all of us can enjoy basic needs. And it shouldn't be a privilege, and basic needs should be assured to everyone. And we often hear that we don't have much money. What we do, it's not about the amount of money that we have or we don't have. It's about how we use it. And disarmament, the benefits of disarmament is to reallocate those resources that have not been used for people to be used for a better use for everyone. So that is the major benefit we would argue about disarmament. Challenges, of course, this has to do with militarism as well. That there's a myth about the arms would protect us. They don't. But we have to address that notion. If we have arms, we are safe. No, we are not. There are many examples. In America, maybe, if you are in a more dangerous situation, if you have armed in your household, and that can be an analogy to state relation as well. So we need to address that thinking that arms protects us. They don't. WILPF has been doing many campaigns in many parts of the world, because we have many sections in the world. We have over 30 sections in the world, and in each place we have had this campaign to reduce the budget, the military budget, the defense budget, and reallocate them to social welfare or healthcare, education, and so forth. So that has been this has been our activities and concrete campaign to call for your government and your lawmakers to formulate a policy to reduce the defense budget, in many cases by specific percentage we present for that reduced budget and reallocation, and identify the areas to be reallocated. I'm based in Kyoto, Japan, and I have involved in feminist peace movement around U.S. military bases in other parts of Japan and other parts of Asia for the past 20 years or so. A particular issue that these feminist peace activists have addressed is sexual violence committed by U.S. soldiers stationed overseas, including Okinawa, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and other places. The sexual violence by U.S. soldiers alone, of course, is something that has to be stopped, because that has been going on for decades in this part of the other world, in Asia, particularly Northeast Asian region. But we also looked at this problem as a fundamental problem of militarism and militarized security, and colonial aspect of that militarized security policies. Okinawa and South Korea and the Philippines, they all suffered colonialism by Japan and the United States. If you look back longer, Spanish colonialism, and they all used these places as military strategic location when there are people living there. People in those communities who still, quote-unquote, host U.S. military in their, on their land, sea, and air, have been affected. Not only have been affected is a rather, it doesn't describe the history of hosting active foreign military, colonial military. Their lives have been made insecure by the very presence of these soldiers, and the soldiers are there because of the security, because they are to assure security. But people in local communities, their lives have been made insecure. They don't have, they are deprived of the opportunities to develop their economy, sound economy, because their lands were taken. They were daily exposed to operation and exercises of the U.S. military and their allied. Noise is the noise of the aircraft or the operations have been unbearable, and that have much longer and deeper effects than we probably think about, and they have been exposed to that for generations. Their cultures and identities were also denied. The combination of colonialism and militarism that creates a clear hierarchy, and that are brought to on their in their community. To name a few, this is just to name a few. There are many other aspects of their lives that were endangered by the presence of the military. And of course, sexual violence have always been sexual crimes, sexual assaults, but we also include prostitution for soldiers as a form of sexual violence and exploitation that have been around in those communities. So women and girls and boys and men who are to be protected by the military are actually not protected. So we have posed these questions. So what is security? Who's security? And who decide? These questions came out about probably 20 years ago. We believe that these questions still need to be asked because the situation have not changed. remained same or got worse even. There are military buildups in Okinawa, in South Korea, in the Philippines, and in Guam, as you may hear more often now because of the tension, quote unquote, between DPRK and the Trump administration. So all these areas, they don't have their lives, the people's lives in those small islands or far east are made insecure by the presence of the U.S. military. And when the majority of people think that the military is to provide security for people, this is a clear example of that contradiction of that militarized security, and that has to be addressed now. No. The first thing I can think of is nuclear weapons ban treaty that, again, was adopted on July 7th this year. And 122 countries voted yes for that treaty. But there are others who did not even participate in the negotiation process. For that treaty to enter into force, the 50 countries member states need to sign. I'm sure we can have, because I say we because that was because we feel ownership of that treaty, because that was supported very strongly by the civil society organizations, including Reaching Critical Will and WILPF. So I'm sure we can have 50 states to sign, but we want more. You can find out what the status, of your government, position of your government, and maybe you can ask or write a letter to the lawmaker of your district, what their views are, what their positions are, because there's a global norm now that nuclear weapons is illegal. Development, possession, usage, we cannot do that. So we do have a very good reason to talk to your lawmakers. This is what the majority of the international community agreed upon. So what is your thought? That's something that you can start doing, actually, because the signing process starts in September 20th. And we want as many countries as possible to sign and ratify, so that this treaty is truly can be truly ours. Military bases overseas, particularly of the U.S. military overseas. You might want to start with looking at where U.S. militaries are located. You can also, if you're interested, I hope you will be interested, to look at the loads agreements that are concluded between the United States and host nations. That is something called Status of Forces Agreement that stipulates the legal status of soldiers stationed there. You will see, in many cases, you will see the privileges given to U.S. soldiers when stationed overseas. The U.S. government has a good reason of that status agreement, because they want to protect their soldiers stationed there, even in the case when they commit crimes, because judicial system of host nations are not reliable or not democratic enough. But if you can have a different perspective of those who live in those community, and when someone outside of their community committed a crime and got away, what do you think? How do you think they would feel? I hope you can start thinking about that different experiences in different parts of the world. Another thing from a gender perspective, I think, is useful is to look at your relationship with your family or friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, intimate relationship, and so forth. Because we believe that that's where the problem can start, but that's where the problem can be solved. How you relate yourself as a man or woman, or no man or woman, relate yourself to others is a reflection of, in fact, today's problem, global problem. So I see, if you have a gender perspective, the connection between what is going on, including sexual violence, for example, in an armed conflict situation, and your daily life. That is your relationship with your friends, family, and some people around you. So I hope you can see that some kind of line between your daily life and the global problem with the military.